Hi guys. It's been a minute. I know I haven't posted in like a really, really long time. But life happens, as I've always said in my other videos. It's really hard to balance everything and life. So, anyways, I took a really good workout class today, thanks Melanin Kings, and I felt rejuvenated, so I feel like I should post. I know I said that my last post would be about dating with lupus, but I'm gonna get there. I am. I want to fast forward you to my transplant. So, last we talked about my fibroid detour and everything I had to deal with the fibroids, and I was going through a lot with the crazy pains I had, and it was excruciating. But my lupus the whole time was in somewhat of a remission. I wasn't having like too many flare-ups, or at least the flare-ups weren't as serious because the pain was so bad I couldn't really cater to the flare-ups at the time because I was in so much pain from my fibroid surgeries. So I would tough through it if I did have any joint pain or if I was fatigued or anything like that. So it wasn't there wasn't a lot of lupus activity going on at the time. But fast forward to October 2015. So I'm a very active person. As you guys know, my family is super active. Kukwa, my mom, fitness instructor. My sister, Coach Cass, fitness instructor. My dad's a runner and plays soccer. Like, we're all super active. Cass and I have been dancing since we were like 5. And playing sports, all kinds, and swimming, gymnastics, everything you could think of. So always been active, always teaching, always doing stuff. So I started to get short of breath. Like, I would sit down and feel out of breath, go from sitting to standing and feel out of breath, walk like 2-3 steps and feel out of breath, which was so not normal. But with everything else I had going on, I just thought, okay, maybe I need to work out more. Maybe I just need to be doing more. Maybe I'm gaining weight, which is normal for me with prednisone. So I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, okay, well, I need to just change something in my regimen. Didn't go to the doctor for it. I mean, I was concerned, but not really concerned because I'm like, okay, other stuff is going on with me. So if I go to the doctor, they're going to look at this other stuff and think that's more important. So I toughed it out, but it kept persisting for a couple days. And I actually went to the doctor. I went to go see my primary care. I went to go see my rheumatologist, and I went to see my nephrologist. And I was assigned a nephrologist. I had been assigned a nephrologist for some time. Even when I first was diagnosed with lupus, I had a nephrologist. I've always had a nephrologist, but they've kind of been on the sidelines. And they did tell me in 2015 that my kidneys are deteriorating. They're getting bad. I do need to be on radar because eventually they're going to go out and I'm going to have to do dialysis. And I was like, well, I feel fine. Like, that's, there's nothing wrong with me. How will I know? And they were like, just keep getting the blood test. We'll let you know how your creatinine levels are and what your kidneys are doing, what the functionality is. And every time I go for a test, they'd be like, oh, you have such and such % left, or such and such kidney function percentage-wise. And I'd say, okay. And they would give me all these pamphlets and all these documents on dialysis. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to get to that point. Like, it's not that serious. Like, you guys are just saying this, but it's not. Like, there's no way. So I start having this shortness of breath. So I go see all my specialists. I go see my rheumatologist. I go see my nephrologist. And I go see my primary care because I'm like, what's going on with me? And they're like, nothing we can tell from blood tests. Nothing we can tell. Like, you're moving okay. You just seem to be having shortness of breath. You're fine. It's okay. So I went about my daily routine, going to work, doing everything, but it was still happening. In addition to it, I was getting sick. I was just having like being immune compromised. I was having fevers. I was just losing weight. I was getting really sick. I was fatigued all the time, and they said it was probably a lupus flare. So they tried to increase my prednisone, but I just kept getting sick. I was more and more weak and still having the shortness of breath. So at the time, my mom and sister they travel for work for Kukua dance, and they were going to Malaysia on a trip. So they went to Malaysia. So my mom was aware of what was going on, and before leaving for Malaysia, she was like, I don't feel safe. You've been here, take some time off work, and go stay with your aunt in Jersey. So I did. I took like a week off and went to go stay with my aunt in Jersey. And she came to pick me up because I was really weak at that point and just like not well. So I was getting super sick, just to the point where I wasn't eating. I lost so much weight and I couldn't take any food in, and it was really hard for me to even be around the smell of food. I just was just so thin and so frail, and I was just getting more and more sick. And even every doctor I saw, they were like, you're probably just having a flare, you just need more prednisone, and kept trying to increase my prednisone. So she came from Jersey to pick me up and then took me back to Jersey with her. And as soon as I got there, I mean, my situation got worse. I was still having all my symptoms of not eating and pain during urination and everything under the sun, plus the shortness of breath. But the shortness of breath was like rapidly increasing. I was just gasping for air. And I've never had asthma, so I really didn't know how I was supposed to feel, but it was like scary. And so we were in Jersey. I told my aunt, I said, I think it's getting worse. I can't breathe. And she said, okay, let me take you to the hospital. I said, no, can you call my doctors? So she called my doctors, and my doctors were like, okay, you need to go to the emergency room, but if you can make it back to Virginia, we would love you to come to Virginia and go to the emergency room here, so then we can like hospitalize you and treat you. Mind you, New Jersey, so we were 3 hours away. But I told my aunt, I said, you know what? I'm going to try to tough it out. I want to go back to Virginia to see my doctors there. And bless my aunt, she is amazing. All my aunties are amazing. I love all my aunties. I love my whole family, but all my aunties they go hard for me. So she drove me back to Virginia, straight to the hospital. As soon as we got there, we went to the emergency room per the doctor, and my breath at that point was just so shallow. And we checked in, they took me straight back, and they were like, this is serious. We need to get you on a CPAP machine. So they put me on a CPAP machine to help me, they put a CPAP mask on me to help me breathe. And the doctors came in, tried to do some examinations, and they told me, they were like, you're not going to last long breathing like this. We need to intubate you. So basically put me on a ventilator. It was the most scary thing I had ever heard. I mean, I was in the moment, but I was trying to breathe, and I was trying to listen to them, and it was just surreal and crazy. And my mom wasn't there, which was even more scary. My aunt was there, which was so great. And then I had other close friends and family who came, who are just amazing, and I love them all for being there to support me. But it was just so scary. So they put me to sleep, and next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'm on a ventilator. I can see the thing going, the breathing thing that's helping me breathe, and tubes are down my throat. There's stuff all over my face and tubes and everything. And then there's this huge thing in my like neck, chest area. And I am like, what is this? Like, I was just looking around, like looking at my body, just looking at everything, touching everything. It was crazy. I couldn't talk because there were all these tubes in my mouth, but I just woke up and heard the doctor saying like stuff to me. I didn't comprehend what they were saying, but they were saying stuff to me. Um, and the only thing I really made out was that you're currently we're currently hooking you up to the dialysis machine to do your dialysis treatment. And I'm like, huh? Then he says we have to take the tubes out of your mouth and a whole bunch of other stuff. I didn't really catch anything else because I heard dialysis and I'm like, huh? Like, what? So basically, the whole thing, what happened, my lungs were filling up with blood and fluid. And that's why I was having the shortness of breath. It was going on over the course of weeks, but I didn't know that. And I just thought, oh, shortness of breath, I need to work out. But this was actively going on. They said the cause of it might have been I might have encountered a cold or someone with pneumonia and caught it from them because my immune system's so overactive and it couldn't fight off what was going on. So it turned into something, it progressed into something more serious, and therefore this started to have a buildup in my lungs and caused pressure on my kidney as well. And so I couldn't breathe. Plus, I ended up prematurely going on dialysis. My kidneys lost function, both of them. And I was on dialysis when I woke up. It was crazy. I immediately had to be mentally strong and just calm myself down because I wanted to freak out. Like, I just was so, like, so, I don't even have a word for it. I was, blown is not the word, shocked is not the word. I don't even have a word for it. Like, And then on top of it, while I was going through this mental craziness in my head, they were going through a dialysis treatment. So I'm sitting in the dialysis treatment for a couple hours. And afterwards, I am fatigued. Like, that was my first dialysis treatment while I was awake. And I was, like, my whole body felt like I had climbed Kilimanjaro, ran a 10K, swam across the Atlantic and back. It was, exhausting. I've never felt like that. And it was my whole body. Like, I couldn't even lift my head, my arm. I was so tired. And I've talked to people who've been on dialysis before. I've heard stories, but when you go through it, you're like, dang. Like, it really, really drains you. Like, it was just a lot. So after going through a whole transition where they had to prep me on dialysis and what my new diet was supposed to be like, what I was supposed to stay away from, everything, I was discharged finally from the hospital and had to immediately start treatments for dialysis. So all of this took place. So the actual me going to the hospital for shortness of breath and being hospitalized was October 9th, 2015. And then I was in the hospital from the 9th until the 16th. and my first day of dialysis officially at a center was the 17th. So you can imagine it was a long haul in the hospital, and then right out of the gate, straight to dialysis. And dialysis was a wake-up call. Like, eesh. Dialysis is rough. I had to go 3 times a week, so my days were Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. I was hooked up to a machine for 4 hours at a time. When you get there, you weigh in, and then you get hooked up to the machine, and then when you leave, they have to weigh you again before you leave. It is a lot being on there for 4 hours. Most people sleep, but there weren't a lot of people my age in there, so it was, if I didn't sleep, I had to be on my phone because there was really no one to talk to. I did make a friend, though. We're still friends. He's great. And we actually claimed seats next to each other, so every time we were in there together and we could talk if he was awake or if I was awake, which was great. It's good to make friends, but it was really hard to see people in dialysis, because a lot of people are going through a lot more than just dialysis, so they have a lot more going on, and sometimes, it's just hard to see. So dialysis was rough for me. Plus, as comfortable as they try to make you feel, you still know you're going through a treatment. You're still in what is like a hospital. It's the treatment center I went to was nice. It was clean. It was great, but I mean, it's just a row of chairs on one side, a row of chairs on the other side facing each other. And you get assigned to your chair at your time slot that you are supposed to go. They hook you up and you're there. And you're not in the same chair every single time. They wipe down the chairs with, I don't know if it's Clorox wipes, but they do some kind of sanitational stuff. And you might be in a different chair every time. But it's not pleasant at all. And so my first couple treatments for the first couple months were with my permacath, which was I still have my permacath scar. It went all through here. And they would hook up the machine right there, and then the permacath would run. It was really hard to have the permacath because you couldn't get it wet. So taking a shower was really rough because you had to do all kinds of saran wrap and cling wrap stuff and to wrap it up so it didn't get wet. And if it got wet, there was chance of infection. Also on dialysis, you had to keep certain levels down, so you couldn't have too high potassium or too high phosphorus or too much water intake. Your fluid couldn't be too high. It was a lot of rules, a lot of stuff that you couldn't do or could do. It was just a lot. Plus, it made it really hard to work. And for someone like me, I need health insurance. I'm over the age to be on my parents' health insurance, so I need my own health insurance. And the only way I get my health insurance is through work. Health insurance is expensive if you don't have any other platform. So I still need it to work, but it's really hard to go tell your job 3 days a week I'm either not going to be there or come in super duper late when I feel better after dialysis. I mean, I made it work. I mean, sometimes I would drag myself in there after dialysis just to do what I had to do, but the way it exhausts you, it's so rough. It's so rough. So you can't have the permacath permanently. You have to either have a fistula, which would go somewhere on your arms, because they find a vein, basically a fistula. They're putting a vein and an artery together, so they go and then they fuse it together, so it becomes a bigger vessel, so that every time you go in, they can stick that vessel and find it easily, and it helps dialysis. Basically, it helps the nurses find it. It becomes your permanent dialysis site, and you have to take care of that site. So you can't lift heavy things on the arm that your fistula is in. You can't get like blood pressures taken on that arm. Like you really have to kind of guard that arm or that area. And it could be like in your forearm, it could be in your the upper part of your arm, anywhere that they find a good vein that they can fuse with an artery. But every time you come to dialysis, then you get stuck with a needle also. And you still have to come 3 times a week, and depending upon your length. Some people were 2 hours, some people were 3, 4, or more. So you still have to do all that. So the second option is peritoneal dialysis, and I chose peritoneal dialysis because peritoneal dialysis you can do at home on your own. It is a lot of work. You do have to be on top of it. Like, it's like clockwork. You have to like know your schedule. You have to take meds, you have to take blood pressure, you have to do all the stuff that you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And you have to be clean with it. You have to have a sanitized area, you have to wear gloves, you have to wear a mask, you can't have anything like touching it, any bacteria, any of that kind of stuff. So I chose to do that. I officially started, I was supposed to switch to peritoneal dialysis on December 3rd, 2015. But it was a long process for me because of all my fibroid surgeries, and I had a lot of scar tissue in my abdomen already. So the first time I went to go actually they tried to put the tube in, it was hard because the doctor was shifting through. He said there was just a lot of scarring in my belly, and it was really hard. So he put it in, but it wouldn't work. Fluid wouldn't flow through it, so it was unsuccessful. They had to try 3 more times to try to get it to work and cut out some scar tissue, which was 2 extra surgeries. But I really, really wanted to do the peritoneal. I mean, it just made life so much easier. But so I didn't officially start peritoneal dialysis. I told you I tried to transition December 3rd, but I didn't officially get to start until March 5th of 2016 because it took so long for them to get everything together and try to make it work and everything. So they do first come and examine your home to make sure you will have a clean and safe environment for you to do the dialysis. And then every 2 weeks they deliver you boxes, and the boxes carry your supplies. And essentially peritoneal dialysis is because the tube is going through your peritoneal cavity, which is in your abdomen, and they put a tube, it's a long tube, and they coil it in your abdomen, around your abdomen, and it goes in there, and that is how you get your treatments. You hook up to medication bag of, it looks like saline, it looks like clear saline, it's a huge bag, and you have a certain amount of fluid that's going in you, or medication that's going in you, and there's different types of bags, like there's a yellow, green, and red, and depending upon how much concentration of the solution you need, you'll use the yellow, green, or red. But you have yellow, green, or red boxes at your house if you need them, and your provider will tell you what you need to use at what time, and they're on call for you all the time just in case. But so your kidneys get rid of the waste in your body. So when your kidneys aren't working, your waste is not being eliminated. So dialysis eliminates the waste for you. The machine does it for you. But when you're doing peritoneal dialysis, the solution that you put in you, so you're filling your abdomen, your abdominal cavity up, or your peritoneal cavity up with the fluid, and it stays in there for 4 to 6 hours, and then you drain it out. So that fluid pushes out your waste. So you're supposed to drain out the fluid and then refill up. So there's never a time that you don't have solution in you. It's just you put solution in, you drain it out. You put more in, you drain it out. And you carry it around with you during the day. Sometimes it looks like you just ate and you're really full because your stomach's full of fluid. But it's better because you can go about your day. basically you can go to work, you can do what you got to do. You do have to still do it 4 times a day, so you have to find 4 times in your day to do it. What I would do is like I'd do it in the morning before work, then I'd go to work, do it on my lunch break, go home from work, do it when I got home, and then do it right before bed. So you just have to make sure there's 4 to 6 hours in between the times that you're doing it. So that's why I said it's very like meticulous. You have to be on top of it with like the times and like everything. But it was just better because I could work, I could still hang out, I could still do stuff, and it was easier to cover up. A lot of people didn't know I was on dialysis because I would just tuck it in my clothes. Couldn't wear a lot of belly shirts and stuff, but I mean, I still made it work, and people couldn't tell. And it was just better. I didn't have to go into the center, which I didn't like to do anyways. And I created my own schedule around it, which was great. So, dialysis was a challenge.
So there's a couple of downsides to peritoneal. Because you're doing it on your own, like stuff can happen at your house and you have to call the doctor right away. If you lift anything heavy or do anything that can strain you, you might see blood when you're draining. And you have to call your doctor immediately. I had that happen to me a couple of times, or like the first couple times I did do it, there was still scar tissue and stuff. So there was blood in my draining too, which is rough. Also, sometimes I forget what it's called, but there's like clear sheath that comes from your abdomen, and it can be in your bag. Like it can come from when you're draining and be in your bag. You don't want to have too much of that come out, so you have to watch for that. So that's like another thing with it. You can also have pussing from your like tube site. So I frequently would get like pus around the area. I don't know if it was because of the scar tissue or they just said you have to watch for that kind of stuff because there is potential for infection in that area a lot. So you had to be careful. You had to clean it daily, like 2 to 3 times a day. Plus every time you exchanged as well. It just was a lot of cleaning and making sure it was okay, but still on occasion it would pus and it was just a lot. And sometimes if you were just out and about or at work and it starts to pus, it like messes up your clothes, which is annoying. So but you see your doctor regularly, so you can always check in with them, and if you have concerns, like I said, they're on call for you. You can just call and let them know, and they will let you, know if it's good or bad, or if you need to come in. And when you're doing the transfer with the saline bags, at first it's manual, and that's when you do 4 transfers a day, every 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever. But then eventually you can switch to the machine. So the machine, you hook up to it overnight and you sleep through it for 8 hours. So you hook it up to your tube and you set the machine, you go through a training, and then you set the machine to its settings that it's supposed to be on for the 8 hours, and you can sleep through it. The only downfall to that is that whenever you hook up, you have to be on it for 8 hours. So you need to make sure that you've done everything in your house, because the cord only goes a certain length. Like when mine was hooked up, I put it on my nightstand by my bed, so I was able to reach the bathroom and my bed in my bedroom. Well, at least just the bed part of my bedroom. So I couldn't like really get to the kitchen. I couldn't get to the living room. So if I needed anything, I needed to do it before I hooked up, because once you're hooked up, you're on there for 8 hours. You can't get off, which is the issue if you live alone. I mean, if you have people in your house who can do stuff for you, great. But if not, like, you just need to make sure stuff is done before you hook up. But it's better because you do stuff throughout your day, and, you know, you can go about your day and worry about dialysis at night. I still had to do one transfer during the day, even when I was on the machine, just because I needed more dialysis. So I did one manual transfer during the day and then hooked up to the machine for 8 hours at night. But it was still better than the center. So
it's getting kind of late. I'm going to attempt to go to bed, but I'm going to finish this tomorrow and talk about transplant and how I found out I was getting a transplant and who my transplant came from and everything and all the great news and everything like that.